the imposition of new rules in various parts of the country, including here in the West Midlands. Lucy Allen, the Telford MP, actually tweeted last week that the state had gone too far, and she's not alone. There are lots of people talking in that kind of way. One of them, interestingly, is a guy called Ashfir Sangha, who's an independent candidate for West Midlands Mayor, that election taking place, of course, in the spring. Let's have a look at, let's hear now one of his promotional films that he released this week.
So it's time to say what a lot of people are thinking, but maybe not saying. It's now time to move on. We should shelter the vulnerable, support NHS heroes, end mass blanket restrictions, take sensible precautions, and allow the vast majority of society to move forward with their lives.
So independent candidate Ashfir Sangha for West Midlands Mayor in one of his promotional videos earlier this week. And Nadeem, very rousing music there, but what do you make of what he had to say?
Well, I think, look, if he sees the data that I see, the weekly, daily numbers from around the country, which is why we've taken the action we've taken, including in our part of the world, then he would not be advocating such a sort of let it rip policy, because I think if we let the virus rip through our communities, you will see the numbers going up of hospitalisation and, of course, of deaths as well. And I don't think any politician or aspiring politician in his case would want that to happen. We've seen numbers in other countries of hospitalisation and deaths rise quite dramatically. And the reason we're having to make these interventions, however difficult they may be. Look, I'm the business and industry minister, and I can tell you that every single day I fight on behalf of the hospitality sector and all the other sectors, aviation, and of course, automotive as well. But the reality is, unless we suppress this virus, until we have the vaccine, then we will have problems in that it will actually leak into the over 60s and 70s and 80s, and of course 90s, and you'll see deaths.
What do you... Sorry to interrupt you, it's really hard on Zoom. But what do you say? I mean, he's not alone, is he? There are plenty of Conservative backbenchers who feel the same, who are really, really cross about the imposition of some of these restrictions.
We're all cross about these impositions. Nobody wants to do these things because they enjoy putting restrictions on people's freedoms and, of course, curtailing their freedoms or taking away their livelihoods because of what we're having to do, and therefore restricting the way the economy can operate in a vibrant and dynamic way. So we don't do this because we enjoy doing it. We do it because we are having to suppress the viral spike and the viral spread. The virus enjoys social interaction in the home, especially outdoors and indoors in the home, which is why we've made these additional interventions in our locality as well. So this is...
Oh, Nadeem is just frozen there. Shabana, I'll just bring you in if you want to have a word there.
Well, I mean, I have no truck with the arguments that are being made by the so-called libertarian right about letting this virus rip through our communities. They seem to have no conception of the fact that those who are vulnerable from a medical perspective because of health conditions or also because of their age, they actually live with people who are not vulnerable. They will have families that they depend upon. And so simply saying, let's just shield the vulnerable and let's let the rest of us get on with our lives just doesn't work, because our lives are intertwined. And it's just not possible to, put a barrier down our communities, our families in that way. So I have no truck with that argument. But I find myself in a difficult position because lots of us want to work with the government in the national interest to try and get to grips with this virus and the impact that it's having on all of our society. But the government is making that very difficult because, frankly, they've been a bit of a shambles and they have not submitted their plans to proper parliamentary scrutiny. We have the Prime Minister giving shambolic press interviews and press conferences where people leave much more confused about what the rules actually are and why we're imposing those rules than they were in the first place. And that has knocked trust and confidence in what the government is saying. And that's where we're calling on them to just really clear public health messaging so that we can get some trust back in our communities, because more people will comply if they can trust the advice that they get.
It's interesting you discuss vulnerable communities, because we're going to continue now and look at some startling statistics that came out this week in relation to the number of people being discharged in the Midlands from hospitals. This is earlier in the pandemic, in spring, being discharged from hospitals into care homes without having COVID test results. And Joe, you're going to talk us through this. You've got a bit more detail.
Yeah, this is a huge issue, Lizzie. It's something that I've been looking into in some depth, and lots of people that I've spoken to are talking about a real mixed bag in terms of testing in care homes.